Hi, I'm John, and welcome back to Dice Paper Miniatures. In this episode, I kick off a new series I'm working on that's featuring each of the 18 legions that players can play in the upcoming Warhammer the Horus Heresy. Now, the framework I'm using for this series is basically looking at what the Warhammer community is presenting in each of these 18 articles. The lore, the general look and feel of the legion, and of course, its rule mechanics that they're willing to tease at this point. And then maybe down the road, I might have a follow-up as to how accurate I think that these articles presented each of the individual legions. But that would be a series for another time. All right, so again, that's the premises or framework for this series. I'm really excited to get started, and in this episode, it gets a little creepy. That's right, we're going to focus on the Night Lords for this one. So with that said, let's begin. Well, here we are with the Night Lords, and if macabre is your jam, this is the Legion for you. Let's get started. So we'll begin with a little bit of lore, which gets flavored throughout the entire article. So every family has its problem children, black sheep who just don't quite fit in, while the Emperor had 18 sons, each with their own weird quirks and curious predilections. None were quite as troublesome as Conrad Kurz and his Night Lords, but from a certain point of view, being very bad is actually really good indeed. After all, it's what they were made for. Yeah, something like that. Our guide to the Legiones Astartes offers an uncompromisingly neutral look at each of the Emperor's Space Marine legions. And today is the turn of the Sons of Nostramo, the Night Lords, with an approach to combat that would make the fiercest space wolf flinch. These lads are law unto themselves, and the verdict is death. Oh yeah. Yeah, visually, the Night Lords is probably one of the best looking legions out there. And here we have a shot of Conrad Kurz in his power armor. Yeah, everything about this is cool. This was, if I was just basing my pick on visuals alone, it's hard pressed to beat these guys, I think, visually. They are super cool, especially since coming from someone like myself that's a Soulblight Gravelords player for Age of Sigmar, this really is in my wheelhouse. Even before their Primarch was discovered, the 8th Legion preferred to mix war and crimes. The Emperor drafted their initial complement from children raised in Terra's vast subterranean prisons, a whole generation of feral kids born in absolute darkness. Wow, that's actually something I didn't know. What could go wrong with making super soldiers out of life without parolers? I don't know, nothing at all, says everyone in Australia. Luckily, the Emperor had a plan in mind. Terra was full of dastardly sorts defying his newly established laws. How could he make it clear that such atrocities wouldn't be tolerated in his new regime? Obviously, by inflicting worse atrocities on the offenders. With the 8th Legion policing the galaxy, the Imperium was ready to impose control through fear, and it never really stopped. So here we have the Primarch from Forge World in resin. This one's done by John Ninas. I think he did a pretty good job. It's unfortunate it didn't make it to the, I think it was Warhammer Fest, where they launched a lot of the Horus Heresy stuff. But fortunately got it documented. It was a great video to see how this all came together. So kudos to him. And then the actual army itself was done by Tabletop Titans, another great channel on YouTube. Yeah, these look great. Admittedly, beaky helmets look a little wonky for some reason to me on the Night Lords, but other than that, yeah, looks great. So the rules. The Night Lords don't mess around when it comes to war. Their sadistic streak, honed to a scalpel's edge by the lessons of their Primarch, makes them exceptional at pressing the advantage against an opponent who's on the back foot, and capitalizing on the fear they instill in their foes. A fair fight is for idiots with a fair fight is for idiots with more honor than sense. Why bother with the art of war when you've got a talent for murder? Touché. So a talent for murder reads, when a unit made up entirely of models with this special rule attacks during the fight subphase or makes a shooting attack against an enemy unit that is pinned, falling back, or outnumbered by the attacking unit, it gains a bonus of +1 to all 2 wound or armor penetration rolls made during the shooting attack or assault. That's cool. It's flavorful. Yeah, let's keep going. When determining if a unit is outnumbered, models with the bulky X special rule count as a number of models equal to the value included as part of that special rule. Models with the vehicle unit type count as 10 models for the purpose of determining if the model is outnumbered by another unit. So yeah, my initial reactions to this is it's flavorful, it seems to fit the Legion, and it's pretty strong. Admittedly, it is based on those conditions. And because of that, it kind of comes across as a win more button. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if you play your tactics well and you are able to get that unnumbered mechanic to pop, because that's probably the one that's going to happen the most often, I would think. It could really work in your favor. It probably also means you want to use a lot of troops just to proc that as much as possible, I would imagine. It's hard to know for sure, though, just how expensive vehicle units will cost, because if there are some cheap vehicle units, you might want to kind of sprinkle those in too, just to kind of tip the scales in your favor, so to speak. Let's keep going here. As befits gene-crafted warriors clad in advanced technological armor, the Night Lords favor big, nasty chain weapons covered in jagged teeth. How chain blades became the weapon of choice on Nostromo is a mystery, but you can't argue with their effectiveness. Nothing screams terror like a gang of bat-faced murderers brandishing 5-foot chainsaws. Yeah, facts are facts. Holy cow, man. These are a tough one for me to decide if I want to go with these or my other, I guess, first pick for a Legion, which we haven't even covered yet in my videos. Of course, if you're seeing these out of order, spoiler, they also like a lot of skulls and blood and chain-based, yeah, we'll say chain-based weaponry. All right. So, needless to say, the fact they have multiple chain-based items and each of them seem to get progressively better in terms of what they can do as far as damage goes. Yeah. That's crazy. A ×2 strength, not a +2. So the chain blade is +1, the chain glaive is +2, and the headman's axe is ×2 on the strength. They all have breaching +6 or 6+. They all have shred. Chain glaive and headman's axe are two-handed, where the chain blade is not, but they're all melee. Yeah, they're very cool looking too. Those Night Lord commanders who have spent a little bit too long in the torture chambers develop a certain artistic flair worthy of the title Flay Master. Yikes. These artisans of the abhorrent turn fallen foes into bloody arts and crafts projects that even frighten other space marines. Everybody needs a hobby. Yeah. That's why we're all here, right? Okay, hopefully not everyone's a Flame Master, though. A Warlord with this trait gains the Fear 1 special rule, and each time that Warlord is part of a combat that results in all enemy units being destroyed by having all of their models removed as casualties or as part of a sweeping advance, or that is part of a challenge in which the enemy combatant is removed as a casualty, it increases the value of that special rule by +1, up to a maximum of Fear 3. Nice. In addition, an army whose warlord has this trait may make an additional reaction during the opposing player's assault phase, as long as the warlord has not been removed as a casualty. So, another one of these conditional abilities. It does have a little bit of a win more, but I also like the fact that you could see it as a win more, or you could just see it as being rewarded for playing your army well, right? So there is that argument. And then we have the Primarch again. This one is done, I think, just by the in-house artists. I'm assuming Forge World, but I guess it could be the GW Studios. Anyways, Conrad Kurz and the homeworld Nostromo, which we've already talked about, of course. So it goes on. Conrad Kurz had a more miserable start in life than most of his brothers. Flung across the galaxy, he crawled from the depths of an impact crater on the wretched, sunless world of Nostromo. Choked with pollution, this mineral-rich hellhole was ruled by tyrannical syndicates and murderous courts who preyed on its despairing populace, until Kurz resolved to bring justice to his home. The young Primarch had many weapons in his arsenal: surprise, fear, and mass vigilante murder, and, as the bodies piled high, he became known as the Night Haunter. That's a pretty sweet name. This nickname spread across the planet like a grim fairy tale, infecting its rulers and people. By the time the Emperor arrived, Conrad ruled a world at peace. Terrified, whimpering peace. But hey, it's peace, From a certain point of view, that is a great image. Yeah, like I said, it's hard to beat this particular legion for aesthetics if you're into the macabre vampire vibe. Yeah. Much like the free-spirited White Scars, the Night Lords gained a reputation for being erratic, waging war where and when they saw fit. Their cruelty became more and more indulgent, going from tasteful jump scares to gross-out splatterpunk. When he could be persuaded, the Dark King was often sent to quell rebellions, many of whom waved the white flag as soon as he arrived in orbit. Wouldn't you? Yeah, I think so. Kurz was plagued by visions of his terrible future that slowly drove him mad. He saw the Horus Heresy coming before anyone. Unfortunately, his stuffiest brother caught wind of Conrad's babbling and took umbrage. Primarchs fighting amongst themselves? What a ridiculous idea. Totally. What are we playing again? The Night Haunter offered a rebuttal, leaving the poor Rogel bleeding out over the carpets. Fleeing to Nostromo, Kurz found his homeworld had returned to its old habits. It turns out that peace imposed by a terrifying superhuman serial killer falls apart pretty quickly if he wanders off. Nostromo was destroyed by the Primarch's own hand, an act which cemented Conrad's decision to join Horus. Totally seems reasonable. So for the Heresy, in a move that should have surprised absolutely no one, the group running around with human faces stapled to their pauldrons sided with the War Master. The Loyalist legions honestly didn't expect them to show up at Isfahan at all, but probably figured the Night Lords couldn't stand to miss out on a chance to torment their fellow Space Marines, which was, as it turned out, true. The Night Haunter turned out to be just as reliable a traitor as he was a Loyalist, and swung at any legion within reach. He clashed with Corvus Corax and spent a long time trying to murder the unkillable Vulcan, eventually resorting to long sessions of heartfelt conversations over tea and biscuits. Just kidding, it was more torture. Yeah, that sounds about right. In the Thramas Crusade, the Night Haunter and his sons tangled with Lionel Johnson and his First Legion, a bloody conflict between Lords of Night and Angels of Darkness that ended when the Lion captured his brother and submitted him to an impromptu trial aboard his flagship, the Invincible Reason. The Lion, Gilliman, Sanguinius all tried to agree on how to deal with Kurz, who was losing his grip on reality and spitting out prophecies left and right. In the end, they decided not to give him the satisfaction of escaping the doom he foresaw, death at the hands of the Emperor's assassin. The Night Haunter was frozen in a stasis coffin and jettisoned into space. Well, alrighty then. Again, the color scheme for the Night Lords is pretty rad. Again, the beaky helmets, actually, this is one of the few legions I feel like it doesn't quite fit. It needs something more skull motif oriented, I think, or bat wings, etc. But here we are. Most legions would be pretty upset by the loss of their Primarch, but the Night Lords seemed more relieved than anything and continued their rampage across the galaxy. They even became the first legion to set foot on Terra during the siege. Suck on that, Perturabo. And though he achieved very little of note, they did get their hands absolutely filthy in the process. And if you want some more Legion lore, if you're hungry for more information on these despicable sons and their unhygienic ornaments haven't put you off your dinner, Black Library has you covered. Conrad Kurz the Night Haunter is an obvious place to start. It delves into the Dark King's shadowed past on the corrupt midnight streets of Nostromo, illustrating how the Primarch became the monster he was. Prince of Crows explores the relationship between the Night Haunter and his legion, and spends a whole heap of time with Sevatar, Kurz confident in Equerry, as he runs the Night Lords in the wake of their war with the Dark Angels. Or perhaps you prefer to see the Night Lords battling tooth and nail as they take on their by-the-book cousins in the Ultramarines Legion. Pharos contains plenty of brother against brother action as the scattered sons of Kurz attack in force. And of course, a painting guide. So again, very flavorful Legion. Again, if you're into the macabre, I do think it rewards you for playing your Legion well. So I do think once you start getting some momentum built with this particular Legion, it's going to be hard for your opponent to come back from, I think. But the reverse can be said. If you can't build momentum, a lot of your tactics are built upon outnumbering and legions that can be affected by pinning and things like that, which probably most are. But again, if you're on the back foot the whole time, you're really at a disadvantage with this particular legion. So those are the pros and cons for sure. But yeah, that's it for this one. I would love to hear your thoughts about this legion in the comments below. Do you agree with some of my points? Do you disagree? What are some things that appeal to you about this legion maybe I didn't cover? Or what are some reasons that you're just like, nope, this one's a hard no for me? But there you go. So if you've liked this content and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing that, as well as hitting that notification bell and sharing this content with your friends. It really does help with the growth of the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. As I've mentioned before, I've done a series of these review videos for each of these rule teasers for all 18 legions. So please consider checking those out as well. All right. Well, as always, I hope you're doing well. Be safe, take care, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.